Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're opening some very old case files. But these cases don't really belong to the police or the courts.
No, they don't.
They belong to the uncanny, the unexplained, and I think that deeply human fear of what lies beyond.
Absolutely.
Our source material is this fascinating compilation from 1904. It's called 25 Ghost Stories, and it was put together by W. Bob Holland. And the thing is, this collection wasn't just for, simple amusement.
Not at all.
Holland was driven by this core, almost existential curiosity. He called it the potent desire to know something of the existence veiled by death.
And that potent desire is exactly what's guiding our investigation today. Our mission is, it's deeply analytical. We're treating these narratives, these early American and European supernatural stories, almost like forensic reports.
Submitted by the authors themselves?
Precisely. We're going to conduct a calm, structured investigation into let's call it the anatomy of these supernatural claims.
Yeah.
We want to analyze the evidence that each author provides.
Whether it's psychological, physical,
or circumstantial, yeah. The goal is to systematically figure out the exact blueprint of early 20th century terror. We want to see where that boundary of, verifiable reality ends and where pure imagination, or maybe just error, begins.
Holland himself gave us the perfect anchor for this whole endeavor. He roots it not in superstition, but in philosophy, quoting Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Of course. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio.
than are dreamt of in your philosophy. And that quote really defines our approach, doesn't it? As we methodically move through these cases, we have to keep asking ourselves, is the terror internal?
Is it driven by guilt or self-deception or even madness?
Or is it external, a genuine objective anomaly that leaves, physical traces behind?
Or is it something entirely mundane and explainable? A hoax, a case of misidentification, or just a simple error in observation?
So we're going to categorize the terror. We're treating each story like a distinct sample in our lab.
And we begin our investigation with the internal case files. These are the stories where the supernatural visitor is revealed to be a phantom birthed entirely by the protagonist's own moral collapse.
So we have to start with the undisputed master of this psychological form of horror, Edgar Allan Poe, and his famous 1843 story, The Black Cat.
Of course.
Now, what's really interesting is that the editor, Holland, he actually flags this piece not for its supernatural elements, but for its psychological realism. He makes a note that the cat acts in a natural manner all of the time, and the story is quite possibly true.
And that observation from Holland is really the key to unlocking Poe's genius here. If the cat is behaving naturally, then all the horror we're observing, it's entirely generated by the narrator's own deteriorating mind.
So we have to approach it like that.
We have to approach this as a systematic analysis of a criminal descent, a clear trajectory into self-destruction.
Okay, so let's lay out that trajectory. It begins, maybe surprisingly, in a place of apparent moral safety.
Exactly. The narrator goes to great lengths to establish his initial state as one of virtue and sensitivity. He notes his docility and humanity of disposition and his profound, almost
excessive fondness for pets.
Right. It's a clear sign of an affectionate nature. He's married to a congenial wife who shares this passion for animals. And this initial harmony is just so crucial because it sets the stage for the dramatic and terrifying fall.
And the trigger for this catastrophic collapse is identified so clearly, almost clinically, by the narrator himself.
It is. He calls it the fiend intemperance. Alcohol in this story isn't just a habit, it's a corrupting agent. It fundamentally alters his character.
He becomes moody, irritable,
verbally abusive, and then that escalates to physical violence toward his wife. And at first, he spares his favorite pet, Pluto, this all-black cat who is, quote, sagacious to an astonishing degree. But that dam of restraint, it eventually breaks.
Which leads us to the first crime, this brutal, deliberate act of cruelty against Pluto.
And it's an act of what he calls the fury of a demon, committed while he's drunk. He grabs the cat and just deliberately cuts one of its eyes out of the socket with a penknife.
It's just pure, unadulterated violence.
It is. But what makes Poe's work so enduring is that he doesn't stop there. He suggests the acts that follow are driven not just by being drunk, but by something far more fundamental, more philosophical.
And that philosophical engine is what the narrator famously calls the spirit of perverseness. We really have to stop and unpack this idea because it feels like the engine for this entire case file. Is this just an excuse for being evil, or is Poe suggesting something else?
It's terrifying because Poe presents it as this irresistible impulse. He calls it one of the primitive, indivisible primary faculties of the human heart. The narrator's definition is just chilling.
An unfathomable longing of the soul to vex itself, to offer violence to its own nature, to do wrong for the wrong's sake only.
Exactly. It's not about gain or revenge or even lust. It's this compulsion to violate the law simply because you know it is the law. It's the sheer joy of self-sabotage.
It's that moment of recognizing your own capacity for absolute evil, which then just compels you to act on it.
Precisely. And this perverseness is what drives the second and fatal crime against the animal. He slips a noose around Pluto's neck and hangs it from a tree.
And crucially, this act is done in cold blood.
Right. With tears streaming from his eyes, knowing full well that it was a deadly sin. He hangs it specifically because it had loved him and had given him no reason to be angry. He's destroying the innocent thing that embodied the docility and humanity that he himself had lost.
And then, almost immediately, the external world seems to mirror his internal catastrophe with the fire that night.
The fire is such a powerful symbol. It's the physical manifestation of his moral destruction. His entire worldly wealth is just swallowed up.
And the narrator is so careful in how he reports it. He refuses to, quote, establish a sequence of cause and effect.
Yeah.
He keeps that ambiguity alive.
He does, but he documents this undeniable link. The morning after the atrocity, the only wall left standing, the one his bed had rested against, bore this indelible image.
The image of the cat itself.
Yes, graven in bas relief upon the white surface. The figure of a gigantic cat. And the crucial, damning detail,
It had a rope about the animal's neck.
which fills him with extreme wonder and terror. It is his conscience, literally imprinted onto the surviving fabric of his home.
But this is where the investigation gets really interesting, because it shows the psychological defense mechanism kicking in. He doesn't just accept the supernatural horror, he frantically tries to rationalize it.
And this rationalization is the real deep dive into Poe's view of the human mind. He needs order, even in the middle of all this ruin. So he accounts for it to his reason, meticulously.
He figures the cat was hung in the garden next door.
Right, and during the fire, someone must have cut it down and thrown it through his window to wake him up. Then the walls collapsed in the heat, and it all compressed the body into the fresh plaster.
He even brings up the lime, the flames, the ammonia from the carcass, creating this perfect chemical and physical process for a portraiture.
It's a highly scientific, plausible explanation. It's designed to push back against the supernatural. It's his conscious mind fighting the subconscious truth.
It's a shield.
It is. But even with that detailed account, he can't shake the cat's phantasm. He tries to distract himself and eventually stumbles into this vile haunt where he finds the second cat.
And this second animal is an almost perfect double, but the one anomaly makes it so much more terrifying than the original.
It's large, black, missing an eye. The critical difference is a large, although indefinite, splotch of white on its breast. And at first he sort of allows it to be his companion, maybe as a perverse form of atonement.
But that doesn't last.
No. Soon, the initial disgust boils over into the bitterness of hatred. But it's tempered by this fear of repeating what he did before. The terror just escalates because of the creature's unrelenting affection, which keeps tripping him on the stairs, a physical reminder of his own instability.
But the ultimate clue, the thing that really drives him over the edge, is the slow, inexorable transformation of that white patch.
The splotch achieves a rigorous distinctness of outline. It becomes the unmistakable image of a ghastly thing of the gallows.
Wow.
This is the visual prophecy of his fate, literally branded onto the chest of his tormentor. The guilt isn't just internal anymore. It's wearing a physical marker that predicts his downfall. And this constant pressure, physical and psychological, is just too much.
And that tension finally erupts into the final catastrophe. He murders his wife.
Yes, when she tries to stop him from striking the cat, his rage, which he describes as more than demoniacal, turns on her. He buries the axe in her brain and then walls up the body in the cellar with this chilling, calculating precision.
And when the police arrive,
He tries to dispel suspicion with this frenzied bravado. He's boasting about the excellently well-constructed house, and in his fatal mania, he raps heavily with his cane right on the very brickwork that's sealing the body.
and a sound comes from behind the wall, revealing the hideous truth and providing the ultimate conclusion for this case file.
They tear down the wall. The corpse is revealed, end quote. Upon its head, with red extended mouth and solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman.
So the cat, whether it's a real ghost or just the physical embodiment of his self-condemning conscience, it successfully delivers him to justice.
The terror was self-inflicted, but the agent of his destruction was the very beast he created.
That case is a perfect example of terror generated by internal guilt. So let's pivot now to a different kind of supernatural story. External, object-based horror.
Returning to Guy de Maupassant's The Flayed Hand.
This is a fascinating structural shift, because here the source of the terror isn't the protagonist's moral failing, but the history-laden object itself, which seems to have its own malice, its own powerful need for resolution.
What's so interesting about this story, especially in Holland's collection, is how it taps into this deep cultural fear of relics, right? Of physical objects that have sort of soaked up the history and intent of the people who touch them. Exactly. The investigation begins with Pierre, our protagonist, acquiring a souvenir in Normandy. It's a long black hand from which the skin had been stripped, severed at the wrist. It's described as dry, shriveled, but still suggesting prodigious strength.
And the history attached to this hand is critical. It's not just some medical curiosity, it's a piece of pure villainy.
The hand belonged to a famous criminal who was executed in 1736. I mean, this guy did everything. Threw his wife down a well, hung a priest, robbed travelers. He was a general menace.
So the hand carries this concentrated spiritual legacy of a psychopath.
It does. And when Pierre jokingly attaches it to his bell cord, his friend's dark humor turns. Well, it turns chilling. The medical students comment, "Who has killed will kill," is the central prophecy. They suggest the hand has acquired some bad habits and might still be prone to violence.
And Pierre, who at first just sees it as a macabre joke, essentially invites that violence right into his home. The atmosphere is light, but only until the night of the incident.
That night, the horror starts with this frantic sound. Pierre's servant is woken up by the furious ringing of his master's bell. Then silence, and then more violent ringing. When the police finally break down the door, the scene is just one of chaotic struggle,
Furniture overturned.
suggesting a fearful struggle.
And the state of the victim, Pierre, that's the first piece of physical evidence we have to examine.
Pierre is found rigid, not dead, but unconscious. His face is fixed in the most awful terror, eyes wide open. And the first, most crucial observation of the crime scene.
The hand is gone.
The shriveled hand is missing from the bell cord. It has removed itself and acted.
And we get a second piece of forensic evidence later from the newspaper's medical report.
This report provides what is, for the story, definitive proof that the attacker wasn't human, or at least not conventionally. The doctors note the aggressor had prodigious strength and an extraordinarily thin and sinewy hand.
And on his neck.
Chillingly, on Pierre's neck, there are deep imprints of 5 fingers, penetrating the flesh until they almost met, like holes from a pistol ball. The cause of the assault is unknown, but the tool, the hand, is specified with this grotesque detail.
And Pierre never really recovers from the experience.
No. He descends into paranoia and insanity, believing he's being pursued by the specter of the hand's former owner, or maybe the hand itself. He dies later, screaming, "It strangles me! Help! Help!" The physical attack basically severed his mind from reality.
The case resolution comes when Pierre's body is taken back to Normandy for burial, which closes the circle of the curse.
Right. While they're digging his grave, the workers discover an older coffin right underneath the exact spot. And inside is a skeleton of unusual stature, lying on its back, with one hand severed at the wrist.
And beside it,
Lying right beside the skeleton, in this definitive gesture of reunion, is the huge, withered hand, the very object that vanished from Pierre's room.
so the object's vengeance was achieved. It executed the killer's curse by killing the one who took it, making sure it could return to its original owner's remains. This moves the horror out of psychology and into something tangible.
It's the ultimate example of the will of the dead acting through a physical medium. It demonstrates that sometimes the malice really is external, locked into the artifact itself, just waiting for the right moment to reclaim its place.
Okay, let's take a deep breath and pivot completely. We're leaving the deep, dark psychology and the inexplicable object-based anomalies, and we're moving into the realm of the explainable.
The rational case file.
Exactly. These are the narratives that W. Bob Holland included to show how fragile our perception is and how quickly we jump to a supernatural conclusion when a mundane one will do just fine. We begin with a distinctly American twist on the supernatural. The Ghost of Buckstown Inn, the commercial hoax.
This case is a fantastic piece of cultural commentary. Our investigation takes us to Buckstown, Arkansas, and this rundown, isolated inn. The inn inherited its grim reputation from a former keeper, a known miser, possibly a murderer, who supposedly buried a fortune.
So the haunting tradition is already established.
It is, but the current proprietor, Bunk Watson, is described as a shiftless, heedless, happy-go-lucky mortal. The ghost story is now less about genuine terror and more about folklore just lingering in a desperate place.
And our narrator, Rodney Green, who is a travel-worn drummer, a very practical, transactional kind of guy, he decides he's going to investigate the haunted room where the old keeper died.
And he's immediately rewarded with the standard sighs and moans. When he blows out his candle, the apparition arrives. A white and sheeted ghost that enters right through the locked door, points a bony finger, and commands.
Come with me.
The classic haunting playbook.
But the actions of this ghost feel very calculated, almost suspiciously theatrical.
The ghost leads Green, in his pajamas, on this chaotic chase. They go through long halls, the cellar, mysterious underground corridors. It's a clear effort to exhaust and confuse him. And the pursuit ends outside in the orchard, where the ghost points under an apple tree and delivers the critical, profit-driven command.
Here you will find a great treasure buried, and then it disappears.
Right.
The next morning, Green is ready to dig. He has objective proof of the ghost's message, but the evidence, or maybe the control of the evidence, has been compromised.
Green had marked the spot precisely by breaking a limb off that specific apple tree. But when he returns, he discovers that every single apple tree in the orchard has been similarly disfigured.
So there's no way to know which one is the right one.
Exactly. The ghost, or whoever was managing the haunting, had anticipated his move and neutralized his ability to find the spot. That elaborate, calculated act of misdirection should have been the first glaring clue that this ghost was operating with sharp human intelligence. It was designed to frustrate discovery while keeping the central mystery alive.
So Green decides to skip the treasure hunt and just deal directly with the source.
That night, he waits. The ghost shows up again, but this time, Green chases it, tackling the figure violently in an upstairs room. The white robes fall away, revealing the real live ghost to be the hostess, Bunk Watson's wife.
And her confession solves the case entirely. It turns a tale of existential terror into this fascinating study of early American capitalism and, well, necessity.
She confesses that she and her shiftless husband needed business. She masqueraded as a ghost to draw visitors to their isolated, out-of-the-way inn, and she found the haunted tale to be highly profitable.
And the treasure hunt.
Just a strategic ruse to make sure the traveler would unpack his bag, stay another night, and maybe even come back with friends to try and dig again. The supernatural terror was just marketing, leveraging human greed and curiosity for commercial gain. Holland included this to prove that sometimes the greatest terror is entirely pedestrian, designed for profit.
That's a great example of deliberate human fraud. Now let's look at a case of pure misidentification, an unbidden guest, which is a short but perfect study in how rapidly domestic terror can escalate just due to simple paranoia.
This investigation focuses on a married couple, Kate and Tom, who are startled by really minor things. A noise, as of some small object falling, the sound of heavy footsteps, and then the discovery that a quaint silver pepper pot, a wedding gift, is missing.
And initially, they apply the most logical, rational explanation, a burglar.
Right. They find the back door unlocked, they blame the new maid's carelessness, they fire the maid, hire a replacement known for being faithful with locking up, they feel secure. But despite the enhanced security windows and doors securely locked, the disturbances don't just continue, they escalate.
The terror moves beyond simple theft.
Oh yeah. The occurrences get incredibly brazen. Heavy boots are heard, and the royal ghost ship amuses himself by just walking about. Kay becomes highly nervous, the staff quits in droves, convinced the house is irreparably haunted.
And the climax is the most damning physical evidence yet.
The other pepper pot and a silver salt cellar are missing, and Aunt Julia's delicate salad bowl and cheese dish are scattered all over the place.
This disruption finally breaks them. They leave the house immediately, incurring the pretty significant cost of moving to Saratoga for the rest of the season. Their fear costs them their peace, their staff, and their money.
And the ultimate finding, months later, delivers this dose of cold, hard irony. It just demonstrates this sheer absurdity of our tendency to leap to the most complex explanations.
So all of their marital anxiety, the staff quitting, the move to Saratoga, it was all because of a tiny silver-stealing rodent. That's almost better than a ghost.
It is. The owner of the house, a Mr. B, sends a note to Tom the following spring, and he includes the missing silver items. His explanation is brief and just devastating. The items were found in a rat hole behind the sideboard. The entire chain of terror, anxiety, and financial loss was due to water rats entering through unsheltered holes, tiny furry burglars with a penchant for silver. The irony is so potent that the couple later forms a ghost club and adopts a badge with a small silver rat carrying a tiny pepper pot. It's a permanent commemoration of the humbling power of the mundane explanation.
Our final rational case study involves a much more sinister kind of misidentification, where the terror is genuine, physical, and weaponized, but still completely human. This one involves the doctor, our narrator, who investigates a friend's country house called Woodcote.
The doctor receives separate confidential confessions from two women there, Mrs. Carson and Miss Stoner. They both report seeing the exact same thing, a horrible face looking at her from over the top of a screen in their rooms. The doctor, being medically trained, initially suspects simple neurological issues.
Like indigestion or a shared delusion?
Exactly, may be induced by suggestion. But the evidence quickly mounts and becomes physical, which overrides his initial rational skepticism.
What happened?
On his second night, while feeling his way along a dark banister, he experiences tangible, undeniable contact. He grabs a skinny, bony hand which writhed itself slowly from my grasp.
So not a hallucination?
Not at all. This is a physical intruder. His friend, George Carson, confirms the escalating terror. He reports hearing strange footsteps too, and seeing that horrifying face between the curtains of his study. The doctor realizes the problem is not a ghost, but a tangible, malicious person.
The crisis hits when Miss Stoner lets out an awful shriek of wild, uncontrollable terror after seeing the face. This sound confirms there's immediate danger.
The men pursue the sounds, which lead them up this crazy-looking staircase into a lumber room, and finally up a rickety ladder to a closed trap door leading to the loft. They know they're confronting a physical, not a spectral threat.
And the confrontation is immediate and violent.
As the doctor pushes the trap door open, a thing in human shape, which kicked and spat and tore, falls on top of him. It's feral, not rational, and it grips his throat like a vice. George has to intervene with a poker to stun the creature.
And the final identification proves that the ghost was an exercise in terrifying misdirection.
The aggressor is identified instantly. He's the actual owner of the house, and he had escaped from a private lunatic asylum. He was suffering from homicidal mania. He'd been hiding in the loft, using the house's dark passages to systematically terrorize the inhabitants.
The ultimate takeaway here is critical, isn't it? The terror was genuine, the fear was paralyzing, but the entire ghost story was a red herring. The most dangerous ghosts are sometimes the living ones, hidden in the shadows and armed with human malice and insanity.
The case is solved, the threat neutralized, and the supernatural is discarded in favor of the clinical.
We now move into the third and final category of our investigation, the truly anomalous cases. These are the stories Holland included not because they were easily explained, but precisely because they resist those simple psychological or hoax explanations.
Right. They are the spectral events that leave behind objective, sometimes even forensic, corroboration. And we begin with the ghost of a live man, which is a case of sympathetic spectral projection.
This story is told by a captain who commands the whaler Mary Jane in 1871. He meticulously establishes his credibility right up front, detailing his successful, lucrative voyage, a full cargo of oil and whalebone, and, crucially, $20,000 worth of ambergris.
He's grounded in financial reality and nautical expertise. He's not an imaginative, nervous type of person.
And that meticulousness is key. He's a man of facts and figures. The haunting begins precisely at 8:30 p.m., right when he retires for his evening smoke in his cabin. He hears his dog, Bosun, give a dismal howl, which is an established premonitory sign of serious trouble.
And then the figure appears.
A man, thin and pale and haggard. He just glances at the captain on the rolled-up chart before vanishing.
And the captain, being rational, initially tries to dismiss it as a drain, maybe induced by too much smoking or grog. It's the standard psychological explanation.
But the event repeats a second night, when the captain is sober and wide awake, and the figure has the same wan, disappointed look. The consistency of it challenges the dream theory. So he gets his mate, Mr. Morris, a daring fellow, and another solid, objective witness to join him on the third night.
And he purposely places his open chart on the table between them.
The third night provides the objective, verifiable evidence that we need for this deep dive.
As 8 bells strike, Bosun howls, and the figure descends again. This time, the phenomenon is objective. It's witnessed by 2 seasoned men who are frozen to our seats, unable to move or speak because of the strange weirdness.
And the figure is different this time.
Though more wasted than before, he's now radiating supreme joy. He advances to the open chart and places one long, bony finger on it before disappearing.
And the crucial physical evidence is discovered instantly. This is the undeniable forensic trace.
Where the finger had rested, there is a distinct, dark, tiny spot of blood exactly on the point of longitude 63 degrees west and latitude 37 degrees north. This is the core of the anomaly. The captain, guided by this inexplicable trace, immediately steers the ship to that position, only 50 miles away.
This brings up those 19th century theories about the mind's projection under duress, right? The idea of sympathetic spectral projection. This isn't a traditional ghost, it's a living man's distress signal.
Precisely. In the late 1800s, psychical researchers were intensely focused on distinguishing a ghost, a spirit of the dead, from an astral or telepathic projection of the living mind under extreme stress. The theory was that a person facing imminent death could project their image and even physically affect the environment.
And the captain finds evidence supporting this theory. They find a near-dead survivor in a small boat at that exact location.
And that survivor is the very man seen in the cabin.
Yes.
He's later identified as the commander of a burned ship, the Promise. And he explains that he had tried 3 times in this profound, dreamlike state to project himself to a ship for help. He was at the absolute limit of physical endurance.
And the final piece of evidence closes the circle of this anomalous physical corroboration, making the case virtually undeniable within the context of this collection.
The survivor, now conscious, asks for a chart to mark his original position. He's given a new, clean chart. And in the process of sharpening his pencil, he accidentally cuts his finger and leaves a drop of blood on the new chart.
Let me guess.
That drop lands at the precise coordinates, 63 degrees west and 37 degrees north, the exact same location where his spectral projection had left the first drop on the captain's old chart. It confirms this profound physical link between a man in extremis and his spectral double.
Our next anomaly involves a different form of physical trace: photographic evidence. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, photography was seen as this objective scientific truth, which made it a powerful tool for corroborating supernatural claims. We investigate the case of Virgil Hoyt, a photographer's assistant in St. Paul.
Hoyt is a skeptic. He's a practical man who loathes and detests the horribly bad taste of corpse photography, which indicates he has no predisposition to fanciful thinking. He's sent to photograph a deceased woman in her coffin, making him a highly reliable witness.
And he's meticulously professional. He checks every detail to ensure the photograph captures a literal reality.
He confirms that he carefully situated the coffin and explicitly states not a thing was covering the face before he took the 3 plates. His entire professional credibility is invested in the camera, capturing what his own eyes see.
However, when the plates develop, they reveal an anomaly that defies both his visual memory and the objective reality he was trying to capture.
All 3 plates show the same consistent anomaly: a thick veil covering the corpse's features. The face is completely obscured, and the edges of the veil appear to touch the floor, suggesting a physical, albeit unobserved, object. Hoyt, initially angry, tries to hide the prints, desperate to maintain his rational worldview.
And when the deceased woman's daughter finally sees the photographs, she provides the crucial context that turns this from a technical error into an anomalous event.
Right. The daughter reveals that her mother was a woman known for always getting her own way, and had historically never would have her picture taken. She had explicitly vowed that no one should ever see one of her.
So this reframes the veil not as a mistake, but as a direct spiritual barrier, a post-mortem manifestation of her determined, powerful will to prevent this specific, unwanted act.
The sheer power of this projected will is confirmed by the final action of the photographer. He forces the destruction of the evidence itself.
What does he do?
Boyd, recognizing that the deceased woman had successfully kept her word and that this evidence was not merely technical but psychic, orders the daughter to burn the prints immediately. He says they wouldn't be good things to keep. And then he immediately breaks the glass plates himself.
Wow.
This action, the destruction of irrefutable, reproducible physical evidence, demonstrates the fear and respect the living had for the powerful will of the deceased. It shows psychic interference leaving a tangible trace that compelled action even after death.
Our final anomalous case involves a haunting linked directly to physical remains and the trauma of an unconfessed crime. Colonel Halifax's ghost story. This narrative in Sir Francis Linton's house involves a mix of auditory and visual phenomena.
The phenomenon begins atmospherically, late at night, targeting the host, Sir Francis Linton. The sound is a slow, heavy, measured tread overhead, along the gallery. It grows gradually louder and nearer, then fades away. It's distinctly physical and repetitive.
And the sound wakes up the narrator.
It does. And the auditory evidence quickly becomes visual. He wakes up fully and sees this dark, distinct silhouette past the one moonlit window in the room. This figure is clearly a man with marked features and would appear to be a fur cap drawn over the brows, seen in shadow. This specific detail is crucial.
It suggests a specific victim, not just a generalized phantom.
Exactly. And the encounter escalates to this terrifying proximate intimacy. As the narrator throws himself back in bed, a mass of charred wood falls on the grate, sending up a sudden, violent flash of blood-red sparks. By this sudden glare, he sees a face near me, close to the bed, a moment of extreme, focused, trauma-seeking resolution. He screams, and Sir Francis Linton rushes in.
The immediate rational investigation fails, right? They can't identify the source of the steps.
Right. Linton, who also heard the steps, leads the narrator to the small room at the end of the gallery where the sound seemed to retreat. It's a locked lumber place filled with boxes. It's a blind way, no exits, and utterly empty. Linton initially dismisses it as a nightmare, trying to rationalize it, but the narrator knows he experienced something physical.
And the next afternoon, Sir Francis provides the confidential revelation that connects the spectral steps directly to a real-world, historic crime, bringing the whole case into focus.
Linton reveals the contents of that small, blind room. It contains the bones and skull of a skeleton found years earlier in a nearby chalk quarry. He then confesses the specific hidden crime committed by his grandfather and a keeper, the murder of a local poacher or tinker who was known to wear a distinct fur cap.
So the haunting wasn't random at all. It was highly targeted, linked to specific unburied trauma and historic guilt within the family lineage.
Linton surmises his grandfather, afraid of being accused of murder, buried the body secretly. The haunting, the heavy tread, the silhouette of the man in the fur cap wasn't a generalized spirit, but possibly the manifestation of that specific unburied victim whose physical remains were literally stored in the next room, silently demanding attention and proper burial.
And that image of the face and the flash of sparks was the trauma-seeking resolution.
Exactly. Linton immediately resolves to have the bones buried in the churchyard, believing that resolving the physical fact will resolve the spiritual anomaly.
We have now systematically closed our case files, dividing the anatomy of these early American ghost stories into 3 distinct and powerful categories.
We started with psychological guilt and moral collapse, focusing on Poe's detailed mapping of self-destruction in The Black Cat. Then we moved to the mundane error or commercial hopes, identifying the landlady's profitable phantom in the Buckstown Inn and the embarrassing domestic havoc caused by the silver-sealing water rats.
These stories remind us that human greed and simple biology often mimic the supernatural perfectly.
They do. And finally, we investigated the truly anomalous events, where the phenomena left physical traces that resisted mundane explanation. The sympathetic blood drop left by the spectral projection, the spiritual veil on the photographic plate, and the manifestation of the unburied skeleton demanding justice.
W. Bob Holland, in compiling these works, masterfully leveraged the major perennial sources of human fear, didn't he?
Absolutely. The malice or instability of the living, the simple confusion caused by darkness and error, and the profound, inexplicable influence of the dead. These narratives are powerful shortcuts to understanding the human mind's capacity for both generating and receiving belief.
And that infrastructure of belief brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the learner. We conclude with The Ghost of Washington, one of the final stories in Holland's collection. The protagonist, John Riley, is touring Valley Forge, and he drinks a strange liquid from a broken bottle he finds in a dilapidated house. And suddenly, the world shifts.
The house is new. He's surrounded by Continental soldiers in 1777, and he's arrested as a spy. He speaks to Washington, marveling at this fully realized historical reality that was created by an external stimulus.
He finds himself in a contest, racing his modern bicycle against a soldier on horseback. He wins by 20 feet. But the moment he crosses that finish line, that line of transition, the entire reality vanishes with a startling suddenness.
Leaving him standing on an empty road beside a dilapidated house containing only broken glass.
This story connects all our case files. If reality can be so convincingly simulated by internal or unknown mechanisms triggered by a single external catalyst, the liquid in the bottle, what separates any deeply held memory, even your own, from the fantastical narrative?
We saw how Poe's narrator manufactured his own terrifying reality through perverseness, and how the victims in Woodcote manufactured a ghost from a madman.
So we ask you, what is the bottle in your own life? That internal obsession, that external stimulus, or that unresolved trauma that could trigger an unwanted, fully realized spectral or historical experience. One that's so vivid you can't tell the moment it vanishes, leaving you standing only with the mundane remnants of broken glass.
An interesting question to ponder as you reflect on the blueprints of belief and terror.
We'll leave you with that chilling thought. Until next time.